Hi submarine friends. Welcome back to watching me build my diesel electric submarine. I have to sit down, I'm a little pooped, I've been working hard this morning. So what I did, I made a couple of decisions. So one of the decisions is fuel tank is gone. I took it out from back here. I just don't like the balancing act I would have to do to fuel it up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to build a new fuel tank because I don't want to risk modifying the old one and then having an explosion or something. So I'm just going to build a new fuel tank, and it's going to go in the forward ballast tank. And then I ordered 25 feet of 1/4 inch fuel line. So I'm just going to run the fuel line inside the hull back to the engine. I'll just remove the shut-off valves from this end and move them to that end. It's not going to be a big deal of a job at all. So that takes care of the fuel pump or fuel tank in the front. So the second reason I decided to move the fuel tank to the front is because there's a big giant engine compartment inside the ballast tank. I have lost volume for holding the submarine high out of the water. So by removing that fuel tank, that gives me more airspace inside the ballast tank, which is pretty critical. So I have a backup plan if there's a problem where the submarine doesn't sit high enough in the back. So this right here, this is the line, that's the maximum depth that the air can be inside the ballast tank. If you put more air in, like down to this level, the submarine becomes unstable. So you want all your lift from the midpoint up, actually even higher than the midpoint. Well, in this case, the midpoint would be okay because I have such a huge ballast weight on the bottom. But anyways, that's the cutoff point. And this tank actually has a gap under it so air can escape. So I deliberately did not weld the bottom so that it's like a built-in relief valve, so I can't overfill this ballast tank. So let's say I put it in a test pool and it turns out that I don't have enough flotation in the back. So when it's at the surface, I want 8 inches of the main hull out of the water. So that's called the freeboard. So I want 8 inches of freeboard plus the conning tower, which actually then makes it legit for the ABS rules. You have to have 27 inches of freeboard to the hatch. So, lost my train of thought. Anyways, right. So my backup plan is these two tanks are air holding tanks. If I cut holes on the inside of those two air tanks, they become an addition on the ballast tank, but they're no longer air holding tanks. No problem. I can just use a high pressure scuba tank. I actually found one on Facebook Marketplace. It's actually, I don't know what they call it. It's what firefighters use when they go into a smoke-filled building. So one of those tanks gives me 800 pounds of surfacing lift at 100 feet of depth. Because remember, at 100 feet of depth, the amount of air in that tank is only 1/3 of what you would normally have because the air is compressed, blah, 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 blah. So I did the math this morning, and that tank will do the job, and it's really, the guy doesn't want much money. They're really inexpensive, and he's going to hydro test them. So it's obviously from a hydro testing facility that's selling off some tanks. So I'll have a legit hydro tested tank, and that will offset those tanks. But I don't want to rush into that until I put it in the test pool, because that's a modification that I can make in an hour. Like, no big deal. Because I'm going to put the air tank inside anyways. I want a high pressure tank inside regardless if I have those tanks or not, just as a fail-safe. So if I decide to eliminate those two air tanks, I would just buy 2 of those tanks from that fellow, and I can either mount one outside and one inside, whatever. I have lots of options with that. But I've got room inside. I've got room inside for one for sure. Well, two also, but I don't want to give up too much space inside. So, as you can see, this section is now welded on kind of, sort of, a little bit. So, I don't have enough grinding stones here. So, I can't, you see, what I do is I tack it on. I do like 1-inch stitch welds in a few places. And then I take the grinder and I grind right down the gap. And that opens it up so that I can get a full penetration weld. But that takes a lot of grinding stone. And I'm down to like this much on my last stone. So I don't want to use it up because I can weld this anytime. So what I want to do, and this is why I need to have some grinding stone, I want to make the cover for this. I dug out a piece of expanded metal. And I've decided that I did cut this out, but I'm going to make the whole thing one expanded metal cover. I mean, it doesn't matter. The submarine is in the water. Nobody can see it anyways. But it's important because I want lots of water flow in there to cool the engine, because the keel cooler you can see is right there. So it needs water to work. Now this thing is going to be used mostly in cold weather. Because there's just too much boat traffic in like June, July, and August. So, you know, my prime submarining weather is actually spring, fall, and winter. So I expect what I'm going to do is take engine heat. So I'm going to tap into the water cooling system to heat the inside of the submarine, because it's going to be very cold. So I'll be able to operate, you know, in any kind of weather. I mean, obviously, minus 40 is not going to work, but then the lake's going to freeze anyways, so it doesn't matter. So, but you know, I can definitely operate in really cold, crappy weather. So I want to be warm. I'm a big baby. I need to be warm. So cooling is not, excuse me, cooling is not going to be a problem, because a lot of the cooling is going to be used up for compartment heat. So, another thing is, I've got my hydraulic line draped right here. You can see it right here. It's inside a fire hose. That's how I protect the hose, the hydraulic lines. So that lays inside. I'll get that hooked up. And I've got 4 plugs to put in the engine compartment. And then I can install the cover permanently. And I got to do a little more painting. And oh, I got to hook up these motors. So I'm going to finish all that before I continue inside, even though I'm super anxious to fire up the engine and spin the propeller so I can watch it spin and see if it actually gives me the 500 RPM I'm after. But I can be patient. It's difficult, but I can do it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just clean that up and make that cover, hook up the hoses. Yeah, that'll keep me busy. See, I got a carpet on the floor. I don't know if you can see it. So it's nice and comfy to work there. What I did is I just left the submarine on the trailer, but I moved the submarine back. So I just lifted the front with my excavator, barely did it, and then I just pulled the truck ahead. So I've got it hooked up to my 1-ton 4-wheel drive truck right now, so it's nice and stable. It's not going to go anywhere. So instead of the Bobcat, because the Bobcat, you know, creeps and whatever. So that works really good. So I'm afraid that's going to be it, you guys. I'm a little pooped. I think I'm going to go have a cup of tea, visit with my wife, and then come back and go to work. Ciao!